little background on me, introduction is I've actually been knocking doors since 2012. So this is my 11th year actually like knocking doors and selling a product, right? And now we have way more avenues than just knocking doors. We have drip campaigns, we have a call center, we have a couple of different other lead gen services. But for probably the first 10 years of my career, all I did was knock doors, transition into the home, and sell a product. And I've literally taught hundreds of people how to do it, like myself. And through the various companies that I've worked with, I've probably trained thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of people through like the different videos that I've done. So, quick background as far as my door-to-door experience is in 2012, 2013, I actually did door-to-door selling pest control. So if you had some bugs, I was the guy knocking on the door selling the spray and the granular. And then in 2014, I learned that I could knock doors and sell alarm systems. Has anybody heard of Vivint? Vivint Smart Home Doorbell Camera. Those guys probably knocked on your door before, right? Right. I worked with them for, gosh, about 8 years, and started with that company when it was worth $800 million. And when I exited, the company was evaluated at $12 billion. I grew several regions for Vivint, hundreds of sales reps, and we were very, very successful, both on the alarm side, the smart home side, and then I also helped them start their solar company. And the solar company went public about 3 years after we started it. And then recently, Vivint Solar was actually acquired by Sunrun last year, which was pretty cool. Apart from that, last year I helped start another company called DECA. DECA was just recently acquired by an umbrella company called Lumia. And in 6 months, we took a small company and sold it for $100 million. The reason why we were able to do that was because we went in, we taught the original company how to actually sell, how to go door to door, and they scaled their company from about 200 sales reps to about 1,000 sales reps. And in 6 months, they were acquired by Lumio for $100 million. During that time, the two biggest players in that company, Tyler Bradshaw, John Frampton, and myself, started talking about starting a new company, which was very special for us. The reason why is because over our years of experience, we each learned different things. Some of us learned how to, do direct to sales really well. Some of us learned how to do structure financing really well. Others learned how to create a solar process that's turnkey, start to finish, in the best way possible for the homeowner. So Nevo actually started because we learned a lot through the years. We had a lot of failures. We've all heard that quote from Michael Jordan where he talks about all the different times he failed, and then that's why he succeeded. That's us. So we've learned through all these years of doing this what not to do till we finally learned what to do, right? And that's essentially why Nevo was started, was because we're taking some of the best opportunities in the solar world, and we're plugging it into one turnkey program where it's a one-stop shop for everything solar, minus the building of the equipment and the financing. Okay, I'll get into that in a second. But that's kind of Nevo. That's why we're here. We put a game plan together throughout last year. We launched Nevo in the middle of February this year, and in 8 months now, so last month alone as a company, we did just over $20 million in revenue. It was our 8th full month in business. Not too bad. We're not throwing mud against the wall and hoping it sticks. We know what we're doing, we know where we want to be headed, and we're following the game plan, right? So this time next year, we definitely want to be doing at least $50 to $60 million in revenue a month, right? And that's kind of why when I met Rance, I kind of showed him the vision. It's like, look, we're a solar company today. Tomorrow we're going to have Nevo roofing. In about 2 years from now, we'll have Nevo power. We're going to create a retail electric provider. That way, when we sell solar, they're also going to have Nevo Energy to provide the buyback program. And in about 5 years from now, we're going to be our own finance company. Through not only being a green company, we'll also be a fintech and a green tech company. Right now, on paper, we're worth about $120 million. In 5 years from now, we will be a $1 billion company. That's the vision. We get asked all the time, are you guys planning on selling? The answer is no. We have zero intentions on selling. I'm not gonna lie, we definitely we're building the company with the ability to sell without any desire to actually do it, right? So John, Tyler, myself, we all have the vision that we will be a $1 billion company in about 5 years, and we're about 6 months already ahead of schedule. So it was a shock to us all that we did $20 million last month, but we're not planning on slowing down. So 2 things I'm going to go over though real quick is I'm going to talk about the market and why solar makes sense. And then specifically, so on a macro level, why solar and what's in it for the country as a whole. And then on a micro level, I'm going to talk about the specific program here. It's kind of the whole idea where solar in each state is a little bit different. Almost every state has its own unique solar program. And what's more important than how the technology of solar works, because anybody can watch a YouTube video and learn, sun hits panels, panels produce power, that power then does something, right? Everybody can kind of figure out the technology, but even if you had the best technology on your roof, if the system isn't sized appropriately for your home, or it's not designed specifically to the local program, it doesn't matter how good the equipment is, the homeowner's gonna lose. So what's more important than how the tech works is how the program works in the area that you live. Once you understand the program, you can then understand how this product, how solar becomes the vehicle to take advantage of the program. So before I start getting into the market, before I start getting into the program, do you guys have any questions off the bat? Just anything you guys want to go for it.
We connected with another solar company last year.
I heard that, yeah.
Me and Phil took the training, and we did some deals. So I've got a guy right now he still can't get it running the way it's supposed to run.
Got it.
Like the guy promised him we'll take care of your old bills, and CenterPoint gave him hell with connectivity issues, inspections, backup power. You know what I'm saying? Now my Mason brother, on the other hand, with his home, he's happy with his solar. Same company, 2 different houses, 2 different areas, but in Houston. So his is working perfect. He didn't have no issues. But my guy, he was supposed to be here today because he wants the market, because he's got customers that want solar.
Sure.
But he's not telling them about this other company. So he still got issues. Now, I got a guy right now, another friend of mine, who bought a house, solar panels already on his house right now. They got him into some deal where he's got to connect to them, and he doesn't want to. Can he switch over? I sent this to Rance like 2 weeks ago. Can he switch over to this company right now with the panels he's got? Because they got him in some type of lease where he's got to pay off these panels when he bought the house. And he's like, Johnny, I don't want to deal with this contract or these panels. Like, telling me to come get them and I can switch, or can he just switch?
It's a really, really good question. And the answer is, I don't know his specific circumstance right on the spot. My guess would be probably not, just to be safe. Now, if it can be done, I'm more than happy to play in that sandbox and get it done for him.
Right.
The problem would be, is it sounds like it's not an ownership model. He's got a lease model. So the previous homeowner was essentially renting their panels from company A, right? My guess is it's probably like a Sun Pro or a Sun Run where they don't do an ownership program. It's, hey, let's go slap some panels up on your roof. We'll take over the power bill, but you'll rent the panels from us. That's what I'm guessing is happening.
So now, with that question brings me to the sales pitch, because obviously he got screwed in the deal, because when they selling him the house, they don't let him know you're going to have to rent these. They making him seem like he had an ownership package.
It'd be a good thing to dive into and explore.
Yeah.
Without getting too granular during this meeting, maybe we can connect on it afterward. But just full disclosure, we do not do PPA programs.
Okay.
This is not a rent your panels. This is a complete ownership model that we have. My guess is he probably got set up by a company that's California based. In California, most people lease their panels. The program there, it makes sense to do that. Anything makes sense when you're paying 50 or 60 cents per kilowatt hour though, right? Just get away from that power bill. I don't care if I own my power or not, just reduce my cost on power, right?
Right.
We're in Texas because we have net metering and we have a 1-for-1 buyback opportunity. It only makes sense to own your device, to own your equipment.
Let me ask you a question. Is it true that I was doing a little bit of research about the Tesla model with the batteries? And I tell people that billionaires just don't give stuff away. If he put battery in your house, he reserves the right to discharge it for his needs. Is that correct?
It's a good question. Tesla's a great company by all means. I think the power cells are a good technology. We don't necessarily have any interest in dealing with Tesla products.
Yeah.
As Nevo, we're not brand specific.
Okay.
Okay, so with Nevo, and this will get a little granular, but y'all have all probably heard of CED, Consolidated Electronics Distributor. They've got a big warehouse in Katy as well as in the Woodlands. Nevo is the largest customer of CED. At this point, we are purchasing more product from them than any other solar company in the state of Texas. And what we're looking for is black on black panels that are low profile, that are tier 1. Tier 1 being the key. A tier 1 panel, in order to be a tier 1 panel, not only do you have to have a certain efficiency and productivity rating, but you also have to have a 25-year warranty. It's pretty much a bumper-to-bumper warranty, and more than just having it stamped on the box, you actually have to have a track record of making good on those warranty claims. So there's kind of a finite group that can become a tier 1 company or a tier 1 product. There's a lot of other solar products out on the market, but the scope that earn the right to be tier 1 is pretty rigid. As a company, we only have interest in working there, and it's got to be black on black and low profile. Cool. So it looks good on the roof, it functions great, and on the back end it has a good warranty. Tesla is kind of on the fence as far as, is it a tier 1 or is it not? They've got a lot of money to where they can kind of influence to become a tier 1 panel, but honestly the customer service is lacking, and they don't have a proven model yet of really taking care of the homeowner to the respect of what it takes to be tier 1. So as far as the batteries go, their power cells are such new technology. There's not really a lot of grounds to base, hey, is this good or is it bad? I think they do well, but we do end phase. So we could do almost about any panel out there, but the only batteries and inverters we really have an interest in working with as of today is built by end phase. They're kind of the gold standard right now as far as batteries and inverters go. Generac is making inverters and batteries for solar as well. I'm excited for Generac. We've talked to them about it. I don't think they're quite there yet where we would want them to be. especially on price yet. So, but I'm excited for Generac, especially in Texas. Everybody knows that name.
Yep.
And so to be able to attach that name to what we're doing, I think would speak really well. But even, it's kind of the same thing. Even though Tesla has this great name, if they don't back it up, we don't really have any interest in working with that. I'd rather give a customer a product where they may not recognize the name off the bat, as long as 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years down the road, they're still happy with it, right?
Is Enphase tier 1?
So Enphase doesn't make solar panels, not yet. So tier 1 is just a classification on solar panels. The solar panel that we use today is URE. It stands for United Renewable Energy. So United Renewable Energy Company is that company. Other tier 1 panels that we've worked with in the past are made by Hanwha. They make what's called the Q-cell panel. And we really like those panels. They function exactly the same as the UREs. The only difference is which one's going to be in stock.
So the solar panels get 25-year warranty. Does the Enphase battery and inverter get 25 years as well?
The inverters do, the batteries do 10.
Okay.
Yeah, batteries don't have a terribly long shelf life. Batteries are typically going to last about 12 to 15 years. However, the manufacturer always recommends swapping them out every 10 to 12. And at the cost of a battery, it's just not there yet for me, which is why the majority of the time when I'm selling backup power to homeowners, I'm actually selling the generator over the battery. And from a load and a tech standpoint,
And a cost.
And the cost.
And a cost.
cost, and to be honest, one battery is going to cost $14,000. One 24 kW generator out the door installed is going to cost $14,500 with our pricing. And that total home generator will do far more for the home than one battery ever could. Batteries today just don't have the capacity where we want them to be.
So Ben, what is the big benefits when you sit down with a client in their home and where they see, why do they sign the dotted line? Close the deal.
I love that question. It's actually really easy. So in the state of Texas, really anywhere else, if somebody did not go solar, guess what they still have to pay every month no matter what? Electric bill.
And it
there's-
goes up.
And let me ask you a question. And yeah, exactly. So every month you're already committed to paying an electric bill.
Right.
At what point in time do you get to pay off that electric bill?
Never.
At what point in time is the cost of power ever going to trend downward?
Never.
Never. At what point in time does paying a power bill add value to your home?
With solar.
Just paying a power bill though.
Oh.
Never, right? Paying a power bill doesn't add value to your home.
Oh, no, never.
Paying a power bill actually doesn't give you anything other than just the power that you use.
Some free AC.
Let me ask you a question. Do you know this? You may know this because I know that it happened, and that other guy told us this. What regulation or how is it that they're able to go up on everybody's bill? Like for the last year, I had 8 cents per kilowatt. It was like 7.9. So now I got to renew. I go in. If I go to one, we got everybody 25 cents. I'm like,
Yeah.
the 7 to 8 cents are gone now. They deregulated the market.
Yep.
Is that what it is?
They control it.
Yeah.
So Ben, what are the benefits?
Access point
Can you
to the
finish the question? and have them sign the line?
So I'm just going to make a note because that question is going to go into the market training.
Okay.
And then when I talk about the program, we'll kind of wrap back. So the benefits, right, are for something that you're going to pay for anyway, why not redirect that money into an asset that you own? Even if solar saved you no money, let's say that solar was the exact same cost as paying a power bill. Where do you want your money going to at the end of the day? Would you rather acquire power from somebody else and give them 100% of your money? Or would you rather own the device that's producing the power and essentially pay yourself? It's kind of the same idea of we all need to live somewhere, right? One way of living is in somebody else's home or in an apartment, and we can pay the landlord to live there. Or we can buy a home. We have to live somewhere no matter what, right? So option A, we live here and give our money to someone else. Option B is we live here and essentially we're still paying, but that money's coming back to us in the form of equity. And now we actually have an asset attached to our name. Also, when you have an ownership model of where you live, eventually you pay the thing off. And once you pay it off, apart from taxes, what else do you owe? Nothing. You own it.
Right.
That's the same thing with solar. So why is solar? You're already committed to paying power no matter what. If you do, most likely you're paying way too much for it. You're giving your money to someone else and the cost of power is always going up. Option B is you can become an owner of your power, or rather you can own the device that's producing the power at a lower fixed cost. So why do you do it? It all comes down to ownership. Because if you own the device, you own the power. And if that power, we'll say if the device produces equal to or more than the power that you're going to use annually, then you don't have a power bill, right? Because that system is producing all that you need or more, therefore you have a fixed cost. So instead of every month your power going up, down, left, right, and over time it always goes up, now you simply have this low fixed cost for power. And there's an end date. Once you pay the thing off, it's essentially, as long as that solar system is always producing more power than you're using, at that point it's essentially free power. You own it, it adds value to your home, and for all the excess power that you're producing in the state of Texas with the net metering buyback program, all the excess power that goes back to the grid gets paid back to you through buyback. And at the end of, depends on the utility company, but at the end of a utility contract, if you have a positive credit bank, the homeowner can opt to roll those credits over and use them in the future, or they can cash them out, where companies like Pulse Power will cut a check to the homeowner for all of their excess credits. So by
considered income? Should be.
That's a good question. I would say yes, just to be safe, but my actual guess would be,
How do you claim it?
how do you claim it?
Because you got to structure, Doc. You got to structure your taxes to even be able to fit that. You know what I mean? With business owners, it's kind of easier to do that. You know, like you mentioned, on blackout panels. Like I closed a solar deal just because my bro is a dentist and got the big picture quick. I got like my bro now. He set the contract. He needs it for just these reasons. But I got a guy right now. He says, "Oh man, Johnny, my wife don't like the way the panels look on the house, but it makes sense."
Right.
See, and you just mentioned these blackout panels. So is that a panel that kind of look different than these things on this? Because that's his only deal. It's like, bro, you gonna save all this money, and he says, "Well, my wife says they're ugly on the house." So we're gonna still pay all this heavy bill.
At the end of the day, for most people, it all just comes down to the dollars and cents.
Yeah.
If I can show somebody where, regardless of the way this thing looks on your roof, if it's helping you save money, make money, and it adds value to your home, why not? You're gonna have to pay for power no matter what. But this is why we do the black on blacks.
Got you.
So super clean, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So I took this picture because that's like our competition. It's kind of cheesy.
Right.
And a lot of times with these systems, they'll put that like metal pipe that goes across the roof. We never do that. It's all internal attic runs, so it's very white glove, very clean looking. So like when we do a system, that's your black on black low profile system. There's another one right there.
Yeah.
Here's one where it's like head on.
Nice. It's
Kind of like, yeah, it's kind of like
Hey, can you pass that around?
yeah, I'll do, go for it. It's kind of like, almost like a flat
Yeah,
screen
I've
TV
seen
on the
that.
roof, right?
Right.
Now, my next question is, do they punch holes in the roof to install
They have
these?
to.
It's just super glue.
Right.
No, we do, so if you think of like the roof, there's gonna be, on obviously there's going to be the rafters,
Right.
So on the roof, you're going to have all these rafters running like this.
Right.
And so what we do, actually, if you look at that on the third picture, you'll see the flashing the feet and the rails.
Okay.
That are, so the systems will are mounted directly into the rafters. Every job that's right, and Texas is right here. So somebody said the key word, decentralized, right? Or deregulated was what you guys had said, right? And it's totally true. The entire United States is on this interconnected grid system, right? So if California loses power or they have a lack of power, they can pull power from Utah, Nevada, Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, and they'll be just fine, right? Same thing if somebody up in Maine is, if they're losing power because of some storm and the grid is malfunctioning, they can pull power from neighboring states and they'll be just fine. In the state of Texas, God bless us, we decided to be a decentralized market, right? Decentralized meaning apart from this little corner up in the Panhandle and a little bit over here, like over in Orange on the other side of Beaumont, the rest of the state is not interconnected with the rest of this grid. It's a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing in the sense to where Texas just said, you know, peace, we're out. Texas could sustain itself from an energy standpoint. The bad problem, or the bad part of that, is think about the freeze. When that freeze hit, and everybody was without power for whatever amount of time, some people, 3-4 weeks, that was a big problem, right? And the reason why was because we could not pull power from anywhere else to take care of those homes and businesses. In the state of Texas, we are also deregulated, right? So we have, CenterPoint here. We've got AEP, we've got Texas, New Mexico Power, kind of like this. Encore up north. We'll take CenterPoint, for example, because that's where we're at right here, okay? CenterPoint is the producer of the power, and they own the grid system. Piggybacking off of that is a slew of retail electric providers, right? So there's, last time I checked, there's over 100 of them. Dozens and dozens of companies that buy the power from CenterPoint and essentially distribute it to the homeowner, right? So they buy it in bulk, mark it up, and sell it to the homeowner. It's kind of how that works, right? So that's like your TXUs, that's your Reliant, your Green Mountain Energy, and the list goes on, right? Okay. Regardless of where you're at in the United States, there is a great lack of power. There's this whole supply and demand thing, right? So there is a lot of demand for power, not a crazy amount of supply. I mean, there's tons of supply, but it's just not meeting the demands, right? And in the future, the way that the current economy is working with power, it's just not sustainable. So because of this, and because of the enormous cost annually on not just producing power, but maintaining the grid system as a whole in the United States, the government has decided that they want to start keeping more of their money for themselves, which is probably no surprise to any of us. Follow the dollars and cents and you can usually find all the answers. But essentially the government right now has gotten to the point where they said, you know what, we're spending about $300 to $400 billion every year on just maintaining the grid system. What if we go capture some of that money and we create a program that homeowners can now start producing power on site, feeding back to the grid, and start alleviating some of that pressure? Because over time, that'll be good for the homeowner, that'll be good for the grid system, and ultimately it's going to be good for the US government because now they're not having to fork out hundreds of billions of dollars of taxpayer dollars every year just to maintain something. So that is why we now have this thing called the federal tax credit. It's at 30%. And this is basically an incentive to help homeowners go solar. Imagine 20 years ago, how many electric vehicles did you see on the road?
Small amount.
Probably
Not-
Toyota, just the hybrids. Toyota.
20 years ago,
Yeah,
not a whole lot of them.
not a whole lot of them.
Today, lots of them. In between that time, about 12, 13 years ago, the government wanted to kind of create a movement on electric vehicles. So they created a federal tax credit on electric vehicles. It's about 12, 13 years ago. So if you needed to go buy a vehicle anyway, if you were already going to shop for a vehicle, and the government said, hey, go buy an electric vehicle, and we'll give you $7,500 just for doing it. Kind of a no-brainer. You're gonna have to go buy a vehicle anyway, and if you leave that dealership and on your taxes the very next year on your return, you got $7,500 free dollars, that's a pretty good deal. That was about 13 years ago with electric vehicles. But over time, guess what happened to that federal tax credit?
Went down.
Shrink.
Went away.
About 2 or 3 years ago, about 4 years ago, I think that federal tax credit on vehicles dwindled all the way down to like $750 or $500. But today, when you buy an electric vehicle, guess what the benefit is?
Nothing.
There's not really an incentive, but guess what has happened to the cost of electric vehicles?
They've gone
Went
down.
up.
So the cost of vehicles were really low, electric vehicles back in the day, and the incentive was high. And over time, it's kind of done like this.
By design.
But at what point in time today do you but there's more electric vehicles being purchased today than ever before. It's kind of crazy.
They created the market and now they incentivize it, so now they make more money.
So that is kind of where we come into play, right? Is the government has identified that there's this great need to help homeowners go sustainable renewable through solar. And they've created this federal tax credit. The cool part is this year, they've extended this 30% federal tax credit for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
So with that being said, we have a 10-year absolute gold rush on solar. When that happened, that secured the benefit of solar for a minimum of 10 years. Year 11, it goes down to 26. Year 12, it goes down to 22. And then year 13, it's scheduled to go away, basically. So all this really means is that we have 10 absolutely phenomenal years to sell this thing because the homeowner is going to get 30% back and the sales margin is massive. So the homeowner can save a ton of money. And ultimately, as a business and as sales reps, we stand to make a ton of money for selling this thing.
I don't want to interrupt your flow, but that 10 years that they extended it, if I just get a system this year, will I be able to do that every year for the next 10 years?
It's a one-time federal tax credit.
Oh, it's a one time.
It's 30% of the total system cost.
Okay.
If you are not able to recoup all 30% the very next year, it's scheduled to where you can acquire the whole thing over a 5-year period of time.
Okay.
Most homeowners, and really all it comes down to is what is your tax liability. But if you're working, you make an income, you're paying taxes, most people are going to get the full amount of this year 1. Sometimes, but if not, you get year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5 to recoup it all.
So that's how those commercials say that it's paying for itself, basically.
Yes and no. As far as, it depends on what market you're in and what the program is. It could be paying for itself just in the fact that there's a buyback attached to it. And then also, I just think marketing is sometimes, again, people say whatever they need to get, customers in the door. It will pay for itself. Solar eventually is always going to pay itself off and then continuously benefit the homeowner at the end of the day too. But there's also no down payment. There's no upfront cost on going solar when you use the program. So it kind of pays for itself day one. If you think about it in the sense to where it's like, well, I would have had to pay the power bill anyway, and this is a lower payment, and it eliminated this thing. So, okay, so that's essentially the market as a whole, right? So it's the market as a whole. This is Texas's place in that market and kind of how it's structured here. And then, you know, we went over the federal tax credit, the 30%. Our job is very simple. Essentially, we are bringing this to the homeowner. It's not like the government has governmental workers out knocking on doors providing this thing. They rely on people like us to create a business, essentially, to get this to the customer. With this as well, I'll note, brings in financing. Right now, there's a few banks, which the two we use are Goodleap and Mosaic. This is who we do our financing through. And just to kind of give you an idea, and with these two companies, we have dozens of loan products that we can offer. However, we can do loans up to 25 years at as low as a 1.99% interest rate. If you take any product and span it out over 25 years at a 1.99 interest rate, what you have is a monthly payment that's just so stinking low, it becomes a no-brainer. Because even if the homeowner didn't take advantage of that, they'd still have to pay a power bill anyway.
Yeah.
So, and this is what we do. So this is kind of the cool thing about us, and as a company, especially cool with what we're doing, is most solar businesses, it takes them years. I'm talking 7, 8, 9, 10 years to get to the point to where they have the track record of being able to working with companies like Goodleap and Mosaic to even offer something like this.
That's still the scary part for people. That's a long time, no matter how you look at it. But the thing is, depending on
Your electricity
longer.
bill, right?
But you know, that's the scary part.
Yeah.
Because they take and then they attach a lien on your house and all this other kind of stuff that goes with that.
They don't attach the lien on the house though.
They don't.
It's a mechanical lien. The lien is only attached to the equipment. So, but it's a good point. It could be scary. And I'll go through how to overcome that objection later. But ultimately, it's not our choice to do 25 years. In fact, if the homeowner wanted to, we could do a 5-year note or a 7-year note. Doesn't change the price.
Just means a higher payment.
It just means a higher payment. So we could do 5 or 7, but if we did 5 or 7, how many people could actually afford that? My job is super simple. My job is to provide you power at a lower cost than what you're gonna pay for anyway. I can do that by doing 25 years.
I have a question.
And it's no prepayment penalty. So if you wanted to pay it off early, you totally could. So at the end of the day, you're the one in charge. If you wanted to span it out and have the lowest possible payment and add value to your home, you can. But at any point in time, if you want to double down or pay it off early, you absolutely can do that. There's no prepayment penalty. You're just shortening the time and you're just earning your 2% interest back.
And even if it's a mechanical lien, and let's just say customer A defaults on that lien now, it becomes due. The company comes back and removes the panels, removes the product, and that labor is already within that 25-year warranty that you had, so you have to do all the work as well.
The bank actually would.
Yeah, so they just take it back, take the stuff out.
Exactly. So that's the worst case scenario.
They don't want to do that.
No.
Here's the
It's like
point.
a car.
Every single homeowner in the United States, the one payment that everybody pays
Electricity.
is electricity. Because if not, kids are unhappy, wife's unhappy, it ain't good.
You ain't gonna
So
build a house
every
with no
homeowner,
lights.
so the cool thing is, because we meet with these banks on a quarterly basis, over 98% of all of our loans are always up to date. It's like something like 98.5, 98.7% of all solar loans are up to date. Because everybody's gonna always pay for one bill no matter what, it's power. And honestly, the bank is not gonna be quick to come take the panels off. They're gonna be super lenient, work with the homeowner, it just is what it is. But at the end of the day, it's kind of that same thing. Hey, if the homeowner doesn't pay for power, guess what's getting turned off?
So the
Okay.
monitoring piece to actually turn it off becomes one of those, be ready with those.
Honestly, nobody comes
But
in,
that's-
nobody's gonna go.
Who's minding the store? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, nobody's really gonna do that. It's just kind of that worst case scenario of if that happened, the bank is gonna they're gonna communicate to the homeowner, and if the homeowner's just not gonna pay that bill, they're gonna come and the bank will create a way to come take their equipment. It's really all that it is. And then the unfortunate thing happens, the moment that homeowner doesn't go solar, guess what they're getting slapped with anyway?
A bill.
A power bill, which guaranteed is gonna be higher than what their solar panel payment would be anyway. So it just doesn't make sense not to do it.
I'm sorry, I stepped out of my, what was the average cost of the, like normal deal? And you have to put them on a certain area on the home where they get the most sunlight, correct?
Absolutely. Average cost is gonna be, I'll put it this way, every home uses a totally different amount of power. So when we talk about cost is just simply determined by how many panels. How many panels is determined by how much power you're using. So we're always gonna design this to equal that, and ideally a little bit more to do some future proofing. I'll get into that later. But ultimately, I would say a normal system, I would say my average systems are gonna be ranging between $40,000 and $80,000. Occasionally I'll have a solar system that'll cost around 30. But on either of these loan products, the maximum amount that a homeowner could qualify for is $135,000. And I've done dozens and dozens of systems where the solar system itself costs $100K or $120K. You go down and you work in Roche-Sharon or Alvin or Angleton, you get those big old country homes, with big old pools, and then a detached garage where they're working out there. They're gonna use so much power that they may need that big of a system to compensate. The thing is though, is those homeowners are already paying $600, $700, $800 for power a month.
How much would this reduce their bill?
What's that?
How much would this reduce their bill?
Good question. So it depends on, really it kind of depends on what you sell it for, right? So with solar and the way that we structure it, closers have the ability to adjust their cost. So we have kind of a median cost. Without getting too granular, I'll just say we have kind of a normal price point. And then if you need to be competitive, you can lower your cost, or you can upsell the cost, right? And so at the end of the day, you have the ability to charge what you will for the system. And then, so to answer your question, you're gonna be able to kind of determine what their savings would be.
Yeah, let me chime in right there. When we were working this out, we purposely modeled it after the way what you existingly have right now. But we have our flat rate, our fixed price on our generators right now. And you like that 12.5 figure, remember that? And so if you choose to go below that, you're cutting yourself out of that. But you also have the ability to go above that. And so that at that 12.5, you get that box bonus. Remember? So, but all above that, you tie into the commission, extra commission bonus piece. So that's exactly what this is. If you think of it like that, you'll see the alignment between the two companies.
How big of how many KWs? What was the biggest KW panels you guys installed? 8, 10, 12?
We're talking total system size?
Yeah.
The largest system I've done on a residential home was a 33 kilowatt system.
That's a huge home.
And I would have done more had we could have added more panels
Space.
into the financing.
Yeah.
It wasn't a space issue.
Okay.
It was a financing issue.
Okay.
Because when I added that many panels, their loan payment was like $134,000, like $900.
Yeah.
So it was just shy of what we could do.
Wow.
The thing is though, is I still built the system with enough panels to get them to 100% offset,
Mm-hmm.
plus an extra 5%.
Wow.
But
How many panels was that?
it was something like 70, it was almost 80 panels.
That's a huge home.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It was a very large system. And the homeowner was pumped. But ultimately, if the homeowner could have, they would have added enough panels to get to like 115%, because then they could have started to get paid for their excess power.
I can imagine what his light bill was like before he had the solar.
When I met with him, his very last electric bill was about $1,000.
There you go.
Okay.
Did you get to that figure based upon his average, the annual cost averaging, or is his highest monthly payment?
Which figure?
If that $1,000 that you just cited was my
It was the
July,
last.
August month bill.
Yeah, that was not his average.
Right.
And I met with him during the summer, so that last power bill was I think, it was right at about $1,000.
Sure.
I can't remember if it was like high nines or low
So in the
thousand.
formula, in determining how many panels I might need, which indicates how much my loan is gonna be, which indicates how much my monthly payment will be. I need to, in my mind, conceptualize that as what I currently pay CenterPoint, the average of my 12 payments a year. That's my sweet spot number, and then I'm gonna stay within.
Yeah, so what
Is
we,
one way of thinking of it.
yep, and now we reverse engineer it a different way. The way we look at it is how much power do you use on an annual basis?
Correct, same, okay.
Because if you're gonna use this much power, then that means that I needed to design a system that during that same period of time,
Produces that.
it'll produce that much.
Or more.
Or more, ideally more. So, but if we're comparing apples to apples, if my solar system can produce the same amount of power you need during the same period of time at a lower cost than what you would pay for
That's
that
what
power
makes sense.
anyway,
Right.
product on the planet that you're not adding anything to their plate. This is literally a bill that we're replacing with something lower, right? Okay, so let's get into, I talked about the market. Now I'm gonna talk to you about the program that we have right here locally. And it's this program that enables homeowners to win by going solar. Simply put, net metering is a billing program. And it's not a program that is just acquired through solar. This is also a program that homeowners can get on any excess power that's going from their home back to the grid. So even if a homeowner had a generator or a wind farm in their backyard, if power is going from their home back to the grid and they have a net metering program attached to their power bill, then that homeowner can receive credits for the power that they produce on site. Simply put, and this is a good definition to learn, you can, if you Google search it, it'll pop it up in various words. But the way that I would define net metering is the program by which homeowners receive credits for all power they produce on site and send back to the grid. With CenterPoint, there are utility plans that provide net metering at a 1-for-1 buyback. Therefore,
Restate that definition again. That conceptual.
yep. So net metering is, maybe I'll just write it out real quick, is the program by which the homeowner receives credits for all power produced on site and sent back to the grid. If you Google search, net metering is so popular now that if you Google search it, it's gonna have some other definitions that get a little too finite. Because sometimes you'll Google search one of the with net metering and they'll attach it to solar alone. They'll say something like, it's a program where when homeowners go solar and send power to the grid, they get credits. That is true, but technically it can be done with any type of energy producing device. It's just a matter of if the homeowner is producing power and sending it back to the grid, that homeowner is going to earn credits for those units of energy. Okay. So
what are those credits? What are they applied to after they earn them?
good question. You will, for the homeowner, they'll be able to see them on their power bill, or rather kind of their statement, right? So even when a homeowner goes solar, they still have to have an REP. There has to be somebody there, a middleman, to do all of the billing. The reason why it's called net metering is, think of it this way. Home's gonna consume power. Home is now producing power. If produced power equals consumed power, guess what their power bill is?
Zero, right?
That's what's known as net zero. At any point in time, the reason why it's called net metering is because normally somebody's going to acquire the net difference. So if produced power is a little bit less than consumed power, we'll call it 90%. Therefore, 90% of this homeowner's usage was created by solar and 10% was pulled from the grid. Therefore, according to the law of net metering, the utility grid or the retail provider gets what? That 10% essentially, right? Net metering. So the homeowner now owes the retail provider the net difference.
Just a 10%.
How
If
are we
produced
sure
power-
that they're being truthful with it?
So on a power bill, it's so a couple of different ways, right? Number one, on the side of every home is a what?
Meter.
And the meter's job is very simple. It accounts for all power. If it's a smart meter, that means that that meter is bidirectional or bilateral. It can account for all power coming in and all power going out.
Okay.
Therefore, you've got that device on the side of the home that will account for all consumed and produced power. Those numbers should reflect accurately on every power statement. Because right now on a power bill, it'll show the start meter number.
And the ending.
Yep, and whatever the difference is. This is how much power you used during the cycle. And at your cost, this is how much your power bill is. In a second, I'll show you a power bill, a conservative power bill of somebody that's gone solar, where it shows how much consumed power they had and how much produced power they had, and you'll see that their power bill is a negative number because the homeowner received the net difference, right? You'll see how that negative bill, that negative number, just gets fed and added to their credit bank, and that credit bank will roll over month after month until the end of the term. We'll go over that in a second. Okay, so net metering, this is it. It's a one-for-one buyback. So I kind of explained it. If produced power equals consumed power, it's a wash. I want you to conceptualize it kind of like this. Here's the home. Here's center point. There's the meter on the side of the home. Traditionally, power is supplied from center point, goes through the grid, goes through the meter into the home, and that's what's known as, of course, consumed power. And in our area, this is all being delivered by some kind of an REP, right? So that could be Reliant, TXU, Pulse Power, whomever, right? This is traditional. And so in this case, the homeowner is just paying for what they use. They use this much power, they pay that much. They use this much power, they pay that much, right? Let's say somebody goes solar. Sun's now shining on the panels. This solar panel is now producing power. That power is going to flow through the meter. The home will use what it needs, and all the excess power will go back to the grid. This is what's known as produced power. So this is very simply kind of just how net metering works, right? And the meter accounts for all of this. So once again, if produced power is greater than consumed power, not only, I'll put it this way, not only are we going to eliminate a power bill, but if produced power is greater than consumed power, now the homeowner is going to be receiving those positive credits, which month over month, if there's ever a month where the homeowner ends up using more power than they produce that month, guess what the retail electric provider can do?
Use those credits.
They'll pull it from the credits. And then at the end of the contract, if the homeowner still has a positive credit bank, they can opt to roll those credits over to their next plan, or they can cash it out. And the utility company can cut them a check for whatever the difference is, or whatever their balance is. So my job's simple, is I just wanna make sure that I help homeowners transition to become an owner of their power. My job really is I want to eliminate your power bill. I just never want you to ever send your money to someone else ever again for power. Instead, I want to redirect that money back into your own
pocket.
That's kind of the whole idea. So solar is all about ownership, because when you own the device, you own your power, you can now take advantage of the program and do this. Eliminating the power bill, giving yourself a lower fixed cost.
Have you thought about, this is back to the vision part. The produced power coming back off of the products that we put into place, you become center point and let it feed your power grid.
You have to build it. That's a big infrastructure.
Yes.
I know, I'm just talking about vision.
Right.
And what that might look like to create, but it's something to put on your mind.
It would be cool. I think that center point probably has a monopoly.
I'm sure,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
on building the infrastructure.
In the deregulation mindset, that becomes room for additional competition. So just a thought.
Now, in all the solar customers I've already had, none of them have eliminated their bill. And they say Texas, even the ones I know with backup power, the phase ones, not the Generac, I'm talking about real backup storage, they still get an assessment fee from CenterPoint, like $30. They still get a small, just for using our lines.
It should be
a bill.
$4.95.
$5, okay.
Yep, should be $5. And really all that comes down to is the research. Because the fact is that there are utility plans out there that will allow the credits to first cover those charges, and then any additional credits would just be forwarded on to the homeowner.
So the REP just really like screwing my buddy out about $20.
Not necessarily. It's mostly, I don't know if I would say, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
So technically, yes, but I'm pretty sure that the REP isn't actively screwing. It's just, hey, this is the program we provide.
Right.
Therefore, if the homeowner
Contractually.
just, what I would do is I would ask him, hey, who do you have as your REP? And at that point, most likely he just needs to transition to like a pulse power, where not only will it cover those excess charges, but then he can be forwarded the difference.
Can they ask
So-
for the difference if they wanted it?
Say that again?
Let's just say 6 months in and they got $200 built up, the contract's not over for another 6 months, can they call RAP, say, hey, give me that $200?
That's simple.
What you use is.
Yeah, because once I find out, and I'm gonna find consumed power for a 12-month perspective. Basically, what is your annual consumption? How much power did you consume over the last 12 months? Keep numbers simple. Let's say that over the last 12 months, this homeowner used,
24,000.
yeah, we can do that, 24,000 kilowatt hours over the last 12 months, right? Great. My job is super simple now. I just need to design a solar system specifically on that roof to produce how much power?
24.
24. And if I can do that at a lower cost than what they would have paid for this much power, then they win. It's cheaper, and they own it, and now they're redirecting 100% of the money back into their own home via the solar. From here, that's when I know that solar makes sense. If I can go apples to apples and solar is the cheaper way of acquiring power to the home than by any other means, it just makes sense. Therefore, now the conversation is not so much, hey, should you go solar or not? Because at this point, it's just a no-brainer. For the same amount of power, you can literally get it for cheaper and add value to your home. Now, all we want to do is what's called future-proofing. And this is more or less just the real conversation. Is it's just, look, Mr. Homeowner, I don't want to take care of your home today and tomorrow. I want to take care of your home for years and years to come. The fact is over time, kids are going to grow up. The HVAC system and the insulation in the home are going to degrade a little bit. Probably get a new TV, refrigerator, probably get the Tesla in the garage and hook it up. Bottom line is over time, you're just going to use a little bit more power. So today, we would want to future-proof the home to make sure that there's enough panels on the roof to not just take care of today over the last 12 months, but over the next years, right? And ideally, I want to future-proof their home for about 20 to 30 years, right? To do so, I'm usually going to add an additional 10 to 15%. So I'm going to look at what this is, and I'm going to build their system here, compare apples to apples, and I'm going to add just enough panels to get them at least to an additional 10 to 15% over what they use. That way they have enough power to grow, because they're either going to use it or they're not. If they do use it, great. We pre-planned it, we did right by the customer, we're still eliminating the power bill, and they're just having this solar panel payment, right? On the flip side, for any amount of power that they don't use during that period of time, it's just going to get paid back to them anyway through the buyback program. So the homeowner wins either way, right? Yeah. Cool. So that's essentially that's kind of the button up on net metering. Literally, once you understand this concept here and can explain it to the homeowner, it should become kind of just this no-brainer opportunity where it's, hey, let me take care of this, let me take advantage of this and have a lower fixed cost for power and redirect money back into my own home, right? So from here, there is kind of the 2 steps to the sales process. And one person could do both of these steps, or you can kind of split it up, right? So as the sales process, we have what are called the setters, and then you have the closers. And kind of what I'm going to be doing from here on out is probably meeting if you guys can kind of work and define who's going to be in the setter program, who's going to be in the closer program, then I can do setter specific training for the setters. And then for the closers, we're actually going to do both. I'm going to train you on everything setter related and everything closer related.
That's kind of what the thought is for today. You got some of
those, right? So as far as the setter goes, really the job is pretty simple on this one. It's mostly just that you're kind of setting the appointment is really what you're doing. Now, when you set the appointment, and I'm going to give you all the tools necessary to do this, we'll have some software involved, we'll have the basic script, we'll have the things that you're going to need to acquire from the homeowner to do the job. But if you're a setter, really it's just how good can you be at setting the appointment? Because at the end of the day, we always say it, nobody gets paid until glass goes on the roof.
Right.
Okay, so nobody gets paid until glass goes on the roof. Once the system is installed, we pay out 100% of the commission the following week on Friday. Okay, so as far as setting the appointment goes, as a setter, just think about what, in my own book of business, what do I need to do to get the best at this job right here? As far as the closer goes, closing the deal's pretty simple. Once the appointment's set, you're going to get the lead and you're essentially going to build the proposal. You're going to make it look super sexy. You're gonna present it, close it, secure the financing, and you're gonna take what's called bypass photos. So for the closers, I'm gonna teach you all of these steps, right? It's not hard. You can do everything through a one-stop shop. It's the software that we have. So there will be an onboarding process where I'll need to collect basically kind of your name, phone number, email address from everybody so that I can get you a login to what's called Enterflow. Enterflow is essentially our CRM where the setter and the closer can become connected. As the setter sets a lead, the closer will be able to intercept the lead and do all of this. And on the back end, the customer will also be tied to the Enterflow project. Have you guys ever ordered pizza from Domino's? And on the Domino's app, you have that little succession. Pizza they're building the pizza, goes into the oven. You can kind of see the step by step. Enterflow has that same exact design, but for the homeowner through their solar process. So they get to see the whole thing go from start to finish. From transaction to doc sign, site survey to install, all the way to interconnections and PTO. So it's fully transparent for the homeowner. It's pretty cool. When they log in, there's even a map where it shows all the other Nevo customers. So that way they click on, they're like, who else is going solar in my area? Or am I the only one? And they can just log in, click the map, and it'll pull up all the customers that are Nevo customers. I like it for when I'm knocking doors. I'll pull that map up and I'll just pull it up and introduce myself and ask them, hey, do you know so-and-so that lives on this street? This guy, awesome. These are all customers of mine.
That was a good point of reference for our sales pitch too, just to show how many more people are saving and going on that same street. That was helped because there's other people even if they know they have a customer.
Yep, it's just the bandwagoning effect. Yeah. It's like, hey, other people are doing it. The reason why I'm stopping by your home is your home has been tagged as a good fit for the program. The reason why is because of that roof. Probably noticed that backside of your roof gets absolutely crushed by the sun. It's been tagged as a good fit because it would have the ability to offset your energy usage, therefore eliminating your power bill. My job, boom, 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 boom. And I'll teach you how to go through the whole thing, right? But ultimately, it's not crazy difficult. It's just teaching the steps, right? So
crushed by the sun.
Yeah.
That was the one that's building what the product. What was that? On the closer.
Oh, build the proposal. Yeah. And what's neat is through Enterflow, as part of the setter's responsibilities is number one, you're going to generate the lead. So for us, the majority of that is through the door knocking. And you're going to gauge the interest, explain the program, explain that your job is super simple. You're there to show them the numbers, right? Put them in a position where they can see the numbers for their home. Most homeowners want to know three things: how many panels they'd need, what it would cost, and how much they'd save. So if you're not saving any money, you're probably not going to do it, right? Ultimately, if you could save money, redirect your money back into your own home and have all the power you need, if the numbers make sense, would you be opposed to learning more about the program? No? Great. To build the proposal, I just need to get a few bits of information from you, and I'll teach you what you need to get. You set the appointment, you're good to go. So, knocking, you do the pitch, get the data, build the lead, schedule, and then do the group message. So I'll help you guys kind of build a Google Calendar out to where it'll have the closers on it, to where setters can literally schedule the appointment in a Google Calendar, and then the closers can, you know, divvy those up as you see fit. The group message is great too. It's I teach all my setters at the very end of each process. It's like cool sort of wrap up. I'm going to go ahead and send all the information over to our back office so that our engineers can go ahead and, you know, render at the roof and pull your usage and savings report. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and throw you in a group message with yourself, your solar advisor, and me. That way we can all be on the same page, and we can go ahead and define the time that we're going to run the appointment with you. In that message, I'm going to ask you to just simply confirm the appointment. We get super busy out here. My advisors are only going to have enough time to meet with the confirmed appointments. So if you're interested in learning more and you want the advisor to come by, just please go ahead and confirm the appointment, and we'll see you Tuesday at 7 o'clock. So then I throw them in a group message. Homeowner confirms the appointment.